board meeting. Give me one sec. I have all my tabs in weird places. But hi everyone, welcome to the March monthly Kustomize bug scrub. There's no one new to this meeting, but if anyone is listening for the first time, we're going to go through the Kustomize triage board and try to resolve as many issues as we can. But before we start doing that, does anyone have any specific issues or PRs or topics that they'd like to bring to our attention? Okay, and then I think we can just get started. So can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So I have this in order from oldest to newest and going through the bugs first before the features. So the first one, name in a config map ref is not updated to include the hash as a suffix.
The config maps are being added in overlays. Is that it?
That's what it looks like. Yeah. But I think it should still update the ref.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, it should be throwing an error that it couldn't find, or that there's an ambiguous reference or whatever. That I'm always suspicious of ambiguous references when the setup in some way includes two objects that start off the same and then end up different.
I wonder. Let me take a look at these release notes. What else is in there?
It's probably just a KYAML change, because that's the one where it flipped to true, I think. Yeah.
Okay. I am confused why switching to KYAML caused an issue with the name references, but
it's just that KYAML provides a huge part of the core of our implementation. So a lot of bugs were introduced in that specific version when the core was switched out from code that came from Kubernetes to code that came from KYAML.
I see. Oh, I see someone assigned it to themselves. Patch included does not affect the outcome. Okay, that's just. Oh, okay, they already submitted a PR. Where in which their regression was introduced. Okay, it seems like someone else is already working on it and was able to reproduce it. So I'm inclined to just accept it and wait for them to fix it, or at least provide updates. What do you guys think?
It's probably fine, especially because this specific example used to work. Some of the other examples that look similar on the surface never worked because the ambiguous reference thing that I was mentioning is often at cause. I'm curious, could you click on the PR that they identified? I'm wondering what it is. Yeah.
Same ending subarray was treated as an empty. Okay.
Certainly looks related. That description does make me worry again about ambiguous references.
Same. But this code doesn't touch KYAML. I guess it's using KYAML underneath. Okay.
Could also be a coincidence that it was the KML release that changed it.
Well, what's interesting is that they say that if they use this enable KYAML equals false, it works.
Good point. Can you link the issue, by the way, in the chat?
Oh yes, sorry. Go. I'm gonna download the old release and try it out.
I'm just going to set up the reproduction case locally so that I can wrap my head around it better.
I'm like having issues downloading the old Kustomize. Okay. I actually can't reproduce this. I'm getting the same behavior whether I enable KML or not.
Interesting.
That doesn't mean it's not or necessarily a regression between the two versions, but the KML part at least doesn't seem to affect it.
If the git bisect is right, that fits because the change in that attached PR is the only functional changes in resource.go under API resource.
Yeah. Well, I at least confirmed the regression between 3.9.2 and 3.9.3. It's doing different things, but what they said about the enable KML, that seems to not be true.
Okay. We can accept it. Let's just go ahead and do that.
Yeah. We can reproduce the regression. So okay. Anyway. using a JSON 6902 fetch. Generator. I'm trying to parse through this. Does anyone on the call understand what's happening? Might be able to summarize.
I'm also having trouble understanding this, but I feel like it might have to do with the fact that when the API version field is built in, we don't like actually treat that as the group. We're parsing it as the version or something like that. I know that's a problem we have. I haven't fully understood this issue yet though, but
Okay.
I was thinking the exact same thing actually. That what we're doing with the built-in version for whatever reason is the opposite of what happens on real resources, where when the group is, if there's only one segment in a real resource, the real segment is the version, not the group. So the KML code treats single segment things as having a version and no group, which is not true of the built-ins. So that is very, very likely related to the problem. I agree, Anna. It's kind of interesting. So we don't actually give the built-ins a version, but arguably we should, because they do have a schema that we're exposing. So potentially something that might fix this and might also be an improvement overall would be to actually give them a version and default the value of it so that we don't break people who are missing it. I'm not sure what that actually would look like to do in the code, but it, I think, would be a good thing if we did give these a version, and probably v1 beta 1 matching customization.
I think that makes sense. I feel like in the code for now, we could probably just ignore the version while we only have one. But that's an implementation detail. Let me try to summarize that. So we think the preference comes from does this sound like an accurate summary?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Very low priority, as the filer commented themselves. It's an edge case on an edge case, and they do have a workaround for it, but I agree with accepting it. It's valid.
Okay. Great. Okay. Value add transformer. Oh, they're on Windows. Okay, that'll make it difficult. So they have a path in a CRD that breaks between Windows and Unix systems, is my understanding of the issue. I'm not entirely sure what we can do about that. Be able to.
What confuses me about this one is why Kustomize would do anything with that field at all. Like, oh, I see. It's being used as a selector because we're treating that as so the field path is using file path semantics instead of just like, this is not a file, right? It's a path within a resource. So maybe that's just not the right thing to do on our part.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So seemingly it's, oh, wait a minute. Maybe no, I've got it backwards. I was thinking that the field path in the value add transformers configuration was the one that was causing the problem, and we were parsing it as though we're like a file path instead of just a random thing that we use to dig through objects. But that's not it. It's what I'm confused about is why Kustomize cares about the value of that field at all. The one that's actually the problem is it's just in some CRD, and Kustomize doesn't know that random fields are paths or not. I'm pretty confused.
I suppose Kustomize shouldn't be crashing, should it? Does anyone know what the value add transformer does?
No.
Okay.
I was just going to say, for good and for bad, I'm on Windows, and so I can try and repeat this one and
All right. Yeah, that
update accordingly. I mean, there certainly are a number of places where doing development slashes yield issues with regard to like test case output and stuff like that. So I tend to do all my work within a container. So I haven't done much at all on Windows itself, but I can spin this up and see if I can repeat it at the very least. And if I can repeat it, I can try and debug and see where the issue is coming from.
Sure. That sounds good.
Thank you.
I'm not actually sure what the value add transformer does, but I feel like from the syntax looks similar to replacement syntax. So maybe they're just trying to append a value to this path and it's crashing on Windows, which I think would be a valid issue.
Yeah, this transformer is not even documented. Oh, I found an issue where it must have come up before because I opened an issue proposing its deprecation.
I agree they probably shouldn't be using the value add transformer. But I don't think Kustomize is trying to treat any of these paths as actual file paths. So it shouldn't be crashing on Windows. Like, we're doing something wrong if that's happening. And if it's in value add transformer, I'm slightly worried that there might be a similar issue in the replacement transformer.
Sorry, I Zoom crashed and logged me out. I'm back now.
I was just saying that I think this is a valid issue because Kustomize isn't doing anything with the file paths. It's just trying to append something to this path. So I feel like we're doing something wrong with our slashes if it's crashing on Windows. And while they probably shouldn't be using the value add transformer, it makes me concerned that there might be something similar in the replacement transformer because it looks similar.
So I found a comment in the value add filter that says, as a to-do, we want to handle values with slashes. I can look for it. I'm looking at it locally, so I'll find it online and I'll send it. So it seems like we want to support this, even though we haven't. So it might not have to do with file paths. I'll send it.
Oh, okay. I wonder how they even found this transformer.
I tried to paste a link earlier. I don't know if it worked because it like crashed my Zoom. But we have a issue proposing its removal. We have people objecting basically because of this, like ingesting the directory base path as a value, which is odd. I don't know why that is a thing they want to do. But yeah, in that same issue, we're saying we should deprecate it because the functionality is the same as replacements transformer, and it's not exposed or documented in customization or our website.
How does replacements pick up the directory name? The current directory? Is that what it does?
I think the customizations directory.
I see. Interesting. Is that not a build time side effect?
If it's the name of the directory itself and not the full path, I could see that being part of the customization state, but also a strange part of it. Like, is that declarative or not? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure why the directory name would be something that you would want to insert. And why you couldn't get that value, just like put that value into the replacement.
Mhm.
Just popping in because I was able to repeat this. It looks like the root issue is with path split. It's looking at OS path separator. And so my guess is what it looks like is it's just overflowing because it's recursive. And so I think it's just the separator isn't what's expected in that function. And so it's, just running until it runs out of memory. Still poking at it.
Thank you for finding that. I feel like we should at least be able to throw an error in that case instead of having a Stack Overflow. But that said, if value add transformer is specifically looking at file paths, then I'm not sure what is the right thing to do between Windows and other systems. It should probably be expecting the Windows path splitter, in which case this working differently makes sense. Okay, so I think the low-hanging fruit would be the value add transformer shouldn't be crashing. Whatever that looks like, it should stop the infinite recursion. And then the more long-term discussion is what to do with the value add transformer. I personally don't want to keep it. I feel like the replacement transformer covers most of the use cases. It's just this picking up the current directory name thing, which is up for debate, I think. It seems kind of weird to me to have that, but I also don't want to just remove it if there are a lot of users depending on it.
At the beginning of the issue, we tried to do a search. Obviously, public GitHub isn't comprehensive. Lots of people have private content, but we couldn't find anything. Like we scrolled through all this and it looked like mostly the forks and examples are fork.
I see.
So there's some usage, but yeah, I don't know. I would suggest that we say we would accept a fix to stop the exception, like it should just be an error. But please switch to the replacement transformer and link to the issue. Like we're not going to take, we can't just like wholesale remove functionality from Kustomize, as we were talking about yesterday, actually. We do have to go through a process of bumping the version on customization, which is something that takes a very long time to go through with. But in the long run, they will have to migrate.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Ed, would you mind leaving a comment later, just elaborating on what you've found so far?
Yeah, I'll update it in a little bit. I'm just digging through trying to understand exactly what's happening, but it does look like it's a misalignment between the separator, and so we end up in an infinite recursion on path split.
Okay.
I sent the relative snippets of code in the chat if you guys want to take a look. Sorry, Natasha, could you just remove the first one? That was erroneous. Second two are relevant.
Probably should have looked at them before just pasting them.
No good, thanks.
Um,
It's that this is interesting. When you do a file path split, it checks to see which characters are valid separators. And so from a file path split perspective, it sees the / as a valid separator. But then later in that code, we're assuming that it's OS path separator. And then because it wasn't found, we end up looping back in. And so that's why it ends up being
I see.
a recursion, yeah, to trauma.
Link. Um, should we accept this issue? Or close it as you should be using the replacement transformer instead?
I mean, from the perspective of this particular issue, I'm not certain. Certainly there's an issue in the code as written for Windows, because if anything else falls into that particular function, we're going to have the same issue on Windows.
That's true. In that case, yeah, I think we should leave it open. Okay. Anything that anyone wants to add before we move on?
That sounds good.
Okay. I don't know if this is in the same order, but that's fine. Okay, getting an error. Version is not available. Is this the multi-module issue?
I thought that at first as well, but then she says it happens to the latest release as well.
Interesting. Let's try this.
Does anyone have Linux and D64 set up they can try to reproduce on?
I have one. I need to SSH into it. I can do that real quick. I'm not able to reproduce this. It works just fine for me.
Natasha, is this on your laptop?
Yes.
So I also cannot reproduce this, but I think it's because we don't have AMD 64. Like we haven't. Okay, it might just be obvious, but Intel?
I thought I checked at some point. Let me check again.
Oh, okay, maybe you have a different one, but I can reproduce this on Intel.
Pardon my ignorance, is x86-64, is that AMD?
I'm also not sure, but I don't think it is. I thought that was like the Intel X. Oh, it is?
Oh, that's what Google says.
Okay, then.
We could also check which code path it's trying to follow by like in install customize.sh, we're using uname-m to find out what to use for the arch value. So as long as you're on Linux and running uname-m gives you AMD64, then the install script is going to attempt to install that.
Okay.
So is that what you see on your?
I see x86-64, which, as far as I can tell, is the same thing as AMD 64.
Yeah, and that's what the script thinks as well. It says if uname-m is x86-64, then architecture is AMD64, so that should be valid architecture. Do you see the same error if you're trying to install the 387 version?
387 is fine, so is v5.
Well, if two of us can't reproduce it.
I'd like to just close it as not reproducible. Does anyone have any objections to that?
No, that sounds right to me.
Okay, validators fail due to mutation caused by tracking annotations. I think I briefly read this one before. Take another look. So they're using Kustomize as a library.
Functions framework.
Or no, they're not. Sorry, what did you say?
They're using the KML functions framework.
I see. I believe that this issue could happen. We don't have any built-in validators. I don't know if we have any tests for validators. But I haven't actually tried to reproduce it. I'll try
Yeah,
coding. Sorry, what?
there's if I remember correctly, the distinction between validators, generators, and transformers field is essentially a checks that they do when the transformer, to use that in the generic way, returns resources. Like validators are not allowed to mutate, which is what they're running into here. Generators are, well, we can't tell that they transformed or not. I don't think we checked that. And transformers aren't allowed to add to the stream or something like that. Or no, transformers are allowed to do anything. I think they're the most liberal, but generators are not given the stream in the first place, and we just tack their results onto the end of anyway. So it's like all sort of handling, like you have your extension in the middle, and like what we do on both ends is the distinction between the types of fields. So this one is, like you said, the validator field, we don't have any built-ins, so we probably aren't testing it adequately. And it's running into the check where it just running, they haven't actually intentionally mutated it, but our framework itself is adding those standard annotations that are part of the resource list specification. And we're counting those as mutations and failing the check. Yeah,
that makes sense to me. Yeah, because these are added by the framework. At what point do they get removed? Do they just stay throughout all the transformations and then get removed at the very end, or like? I suppose that, yeah, these annotations. I was under the impression that they get removed before like returning the results, but I guess that's not true if they're here at the end of the validation step.
Yeah, I think there might be like a thing in the writer that strips them. I don't know why this isn't working for them actually, though. Looking more closely at the sample, they are telling it to omit reader annotations, and it isn't, apparently.
What is keep reader annotations? It sounds like the exact opposite of omit reader annotations.
Yeah, that's because they're using a read writer. So some of the options are about the read portion of the operation, and some of the are about the write portion.
I see.
So omit reader annotation should make them not added in the first place, and keep them should keep false should be stripping them, so that it should be doubly not there. This is interesting.
Yeah, I feel like my impression is that the validator is doing its job, unless I'm misunderstanding something and catching this difference. But I feel like those annotations shouldn't be there just from looking at this code.
Yeah, I'm now thinking it's potentially a bug in the byte rewriter that you're not able to actually have it not add the annotations when it ran trips the resource. It could also be in the framework, but if it is, I'm not sure what part.
Okay.
I mean, it seems legitimate. We have to reproduce, I suppose.
Nothing. I'm gonna clone their sample and just run it so it reproduce. Yeah, the issue reproduces. I think this needs someone to investigate whether this is a problem with the validator or if something's wrong with the framework. Like I think someone needs to dive in. But I'm in.
I might note that the first thing I would look into is the byte read writer.
Okay.
It should be possible to use it without adding those annotations. Actually, real quick, I'm looking into it, and I think it's the framework's fault after all.
Yeah.
Yeah. In execute, it is specifically reading the resources with the reader annotations on.
Even if you set it to false.
So actually, wait a second. It's maybe not, because they're explicitly passing in a source, and we're only overriding that if it's nil. So never mind. Maybe it's not. Never mind. Still need to look into it. I didn't find anything new.
Okay. I'm hesitant about changing the validator. Just because my gut feeling is that if something does add standard annotations, then it should also be responsible for removing them.
I agree with you.
Okay. So I'll leave that alone for now until we know more. Okay. Should I add anything else to this comment?
Yep, that's good. Or no.
Oh, I just
that's good.
realized we're.
Yes.
Wait, when did this meeting start? I haven't been keeping track of the time. We're
a little over time.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll end there. Have a good day.
No worries. Thanks, y'all.